Shake the mountain. The girl in black frowned and reached for the ancient book. Never thought Chen Ping and move back down at this moment. The girl in black was stiff and angry. It seemed that she had never been so humiliated. Tang Ningyao. Her parents are all big sword models on the 12th floor. She has been known as the top sword fairy since her birth. Even if she has run away from home for so many years, she has only competed with others or lost in fighting. No one has ever insulted her personality. A broken book needs her to read. Pipan possessed it by the following means. Ning Yao clenched the handle of the knife and narrowed his long and narrow eyebrows, fine eyes, and red lips, probably to describe this girl. In fact, looking closely, Ning Yao's face is very beautiful, but his transparent spirit of Yingyi has completely overwhelmed his fat and powder. But the straw sandal boy's next sentence has an effect of turning corruption into magic, which makes the girl almost hold back her internal injury. Miss Ning, this book was brought from Gu Kan's house. Although I don't think it's stolen, I'll give it back to Gu Kan in the future. But we're friends, so no matter what's written in this book, I hope Miss Ning can know after reading it. The girl took a deep breath, patted the table and stared. What are you looking at? I don't want to see it myself. Chen Ping and his next sentence made the girl cry and laugh. Miss Ning, I don't know words. Can you teach me? The girl in black turned her mind and sneered. Aren't you afraid I'll take advantage of you? Think about it, Dr. Gu Kanming is a guy who bears a lot of ancestral shadow. Even Liu Xianxia, a natural sword embryo, can't compare with it. Few people in the town can compare with it for thousands of years. So what's the difference between the heirloom he carefully treasures? Aren't you afraid I'll start at the sight of money? Monopolize this valuable secret script. A flickering oil lamp in the dim yellow light. The straw sandal boy smiled and didn't explain anything. The girl snorted coldly, moved her position, and motioned the straw sandal boy to sit next to her dog. As a result, Chen Ping didn't lift her eyes for a long time. The girl smiled angrily. I'd rather Yao can beat 100 of you with one hand. Speaking of this, the girl smiled to herself. Are you afraid I'll take advantage of you? Chen Ping sat beside the girl, a little uneasy and nervous. The young girl Ning Yao was still immersed in the context of the previous sentence, getting deeper and deeper, and said to herself, one hand beats 100 Chen Ping. Well, this statement has a wide range of applications. If you see anyone and lose to me after the competition, you will say, you only have 3,000 Chen Ping strength and dare to fight with me. It feels good. Alas, when you meet a wild beast and day's evil Zhao, you tell yourself, this evil animal is equivalent to 30,000 Chen Ping. Run away. How come on yes. Double quotes. Chen Ping just felt inexplicable. The girl in black sitting side by side suddenly laughed foolishly. The poor boy, whose family was ruined by the girl's smile, suddenly made him feel like a rich man. At this moment, teenagers and girls will not realize the weight and strength of the joke of beating 100 Chen Ping with one hand in the long years to come, especially when straw sandal teenagers are no longer teenagers. The more it goes on, Ning Yao finally recovered, coughed, sat up straight, took the ancient book and quickly turned a few pages. Then she closed the book, clicked twice on the cover with one finger, turned to Chen Ping and said calmly, this is a fist manual. The fist technique is famous for shaking the mountain. If you follow the rules of Jian people, you can call it shaking the mountain manual. Chen Ping looked forward, and then the girl in black resisted the impulse to turn her eyes and tried her best to open a page solemnly. The slender finger, as tender as green, pointed to the preface of the title page. While sliding down, she read, there is a small insect named Andy in her hometown. Throughout her life, different from others, they are carrying mountains and rocks into the water. My fist technique is divided into life and death. Regardless of victory or defeat, it focuses on God's will and not on moves. When I practice the 6 movements of this fist until I am proficient, it has great killing power and often hurts people's heart. Although Shaking Mountain Manual has never been among the best boxing manual in the world, I always firmly believe that there must be a place for this fist if I look at the martial arts all over the world. I hope someone can carry it forward. Ning Yao kept his temper and read the preface sentence by sentence to Chen Ping'an. With a thin booklet, the boxing technique of the whole boxing manual is only 6 potential, and the preface is not small. After reading the preface, Ning Yao pushed the fist score to Chen Ping'an, patted Chen Ping'an on the shoulder, and said perfunctorily, "Keep it well. Don't be a thief." Chen Ping'an nodded and carefully stretched out his hands to hold the ancient fist manual. I always wanted to laugh at Ning Yao. If I put such a book on the table, I couldn't run away by myself. Were you, Chen Ping'an, afraid it will fall? Chen Ping'an rubbed his right hand on the skirt. Then he opened the page and looked at the preface word by word. After that, there were pictures and texts. Anyway, the straw sandal boy was confused. Ning Yao sat on his side with his elbow on the table, looked at the young man's side face, and joked, "Do you think you have made a fortune? In the future, you should use a gold axe to cut firewood and a gold rice bowl to eat." The boy didn't look up, carefully pondered the text content of those pictures and heavenly books, and said bluntly, "In fact, when I saw your eyes just now, I knew this fist manual wouldn't be very good. But it doesn't matter. It's good enough for me." Ning Yao raised his eyebrows and opened the door to the mountain. "The things I have seen or heard are really good things, but apart from this, I can only distinguish good things from bad things. But it's hard to say how good things are and how bad things are." Chen Ping'an raised his head. "Just this mountain-shaking manual belonged to the ranks of good. Not too good, and Ning Yao didn't have a good way. I don't know how to describe it. How bad is this broken fist score?" The straw sandal boy blinked and smiled at the corners of his mouth. "Obviously, I knew it already. I was just joking with the girl." Ning Yao stretched out his hand and pushed the knife out of its sheath for more than an inch, threatening, "Do you want to be cut?" Chen Ping'an looked down. She wore a green sheath long knife around her waist and said with sincere appreciation, "It's very nice." Ning Yao accepted it calmly. "Of course, the sword I chose by Ning Yao is no cowardly." Chen Ping'an looked at her and admired her self-confidence. Even if she was the same age as herself and was still in a strange land where she was unfamiliar. However, no matter what the situation, she was like a rising sun, rising slowly and unstoppable. This was felt by Chen Ping'an. He was careful and sharp when Lu Deishang dealt with her. Chen Ping'an couldn't help saying, "If only sunshine could change copper money." Ning Yao didn't know where he was. He was surprised and said, "Chen Ping'an, are you crazy about money?" Chen Ping'an quickly changed the topic and turned to the first fist score. "Miss Ning, can you read the text of this picture for me?" Ning Yao thought for a moment and didn't refuse. He just asked, "Do you know why I didn't know how to judge this fist score at the first sight?" Chen Ping'an shook his head and said, "I'm also very strange." The girl smiled, simply sat cross-legged on the bench, pointed to the spread fist score, and patiently explained, "There are generally 3 ways to record the martial arts secrets of martial artists and the method of refining chain of practitioners. The first is this mountain-shaking manual, which can be kept on ordinary paper pages for many years. It depends on luck, war and man-made disasters. Not to mention, will gradually destroy and disappear after long years of humidity and damage." "Right," Chen Ping'an nodded suddenly. The girl continued, "Therefore, in this way of carrying words in kind, there is an unwritten rule. That is, pay attention to the rarity of materials. That is, the things carrying words can match the value of text content. Just like you can't use a box made of elm to hold a town seal." Chen Ping'an was thoughtful. Ning Yao hesitated a little and said frankly to the young man, "The next one is to ignore words and teach by example. Most of these are the skills of the sect, which are often kept secret. Or there are red tape rules, such as preaching men, but no women. Even many so-called legitimate brothers and disciples may not be able to preach the truth. That's why they preach the truth." Ning Yao sighed. "As for the last one, it can only be understood. It can't even be said. For example, Tsai Zhenjian of Xianxia Mountain and her Xianxia Mountain came into the town. The sea of clouds is surging, and the cloud and mist glow is particularly special. It contains aura. It is praised as a special thing in the sky by Yodangbao Pianzhi gas refiners. Some of them can self-help Xianxia turns into the ancestors of previous dynasties. If you have an opportunity, you can meet and communicate with them. It is said that the strong sword Jian at the top of Jianyang Mountain will also appeal the sword spirit of the ancestors of Jianyang peaks and evolve the sword way. As for whether you can see it, you only depend on the size of your blessing, not on your dignity, not on your accomplishments. Ning Yao finally said. Of course, there is no absolute distinction between the three methods. The first method is to carve characters on jade plates, or bamboo C, one of the 70 tablaser places, which specializes in producing a kind of mysterious character washing bamboo. In addition, there are countless strange items. As long as you go far enough, you will always encounter surprises. There are all kinds of strange things in the world. In the future, you'd better go out for a walk, not to mention the extravagant hope to leave Dongbao Pingshu and the world, and strive to reach the territory border of the Dali dynasty. Chen Ping'an was obviously worried about the fist score. He pointed to a word. Miss Ning, what do you read? The girl was angry and said, Get out. Chen Ping'an looked suspicious. Ning Yao glared at each other and pointed to the string of words. I really read roll. This fist came from watching the rain in Dali. It was running away. It was as strong as in can rain. After falling into the world, it rolled away on the dragon wall of Dali Palace and poured down. Chen Ping'an stared at the several one-off boxing diagrams. The soldiers were arranged in general and crowded on one page. Therefore, the picture of each boxing villain was not big. In addition, the charcoal painter was not very fine. Fortunately, Chen Ping'an had good eyesight and could still see very well in the dim light. After hearing Miss Ning's word that he didn't understand, the teenager whispered, It sounds like this fist technique is very powerful. Ning Yao slightly leaned over his head, looked at the pictures, nodded and said, There is a fist technique that has been uploaded in the Jianghu for thousands of years and has not been lost. It is a bit similar to this fist technique. Chen Ping'an turned and asked curiously, What do you say? In the dim yellow lights, the girl's long eyebrows were slightly bent, like a bunch of peach branches bent by the spring wind. She held back her smile and said, There is a set of boxing suitable for young and old in the Jianghu. It's called Wang Baiguan. You can beat the teacher and fool with your fist. The young man said reluctantly, You didn't say that. Chen Ping'an imagined that in his mind. Isn't this Gukan's specialty and famous unique skill? In his memory, Gukan's mother seemed to have had a less beautiful dispute many years ago. It was at the door of a powder shop in Xinhua Lane. At that time, Gukan had just been able to walk. Gukan's father had been abandoned because he was a foreigner and had been away from home all year round. The neighbors in Pengxiang forgot that at that time, women began to worry that when their men passed Gu's widow's house, they would involuntarily slow down. Just the women's clothes hanging on bamboo poles could easily hook away the men's soul. Later, mother-in-law Ma called 5 or 6 women together to block Gu's courtyard. Gu was there during the war. She suffered a lot of losses, but Mr. Stockmore didn't take much advantage of them. They were both defeated. However, when she got to the back, Gu was weak after all. Her fists were hard to beat her for hands. Even her clothes were torn apart. Her clothes were thin. It was inevitable that the spring light would suddenly leave for a time, which made those women who were ashamed of themselves crazy. Scratched and bitten, there was no need to do anything. She could see the surrounding of the alley. The men around swallowed their saliva one by one. Fortunately, at that time, Chen Ping'an happened to return to the town from Longyao. After so many years of Gu's care, he went up to help Gukan's mother block many sinister moves. From beginning to end, the straw sandal boy didn't dare to fight back. Chen Ping'an was not afraid of causing trouble, but afraid of killing people with one punch. At that time, the youth, in the shouting and abuse of old man Yao, had gone through countless mountains and waters. At the age of 12 or 13, they had gone through the roads of many small town elders for several lifetimes. At that time, the young man and the woman were sitting at the gate of the hospital, and Gukan was always locked in the door. Maybe she didn't want the child to see his mother's embarrassment. The boy turned his head and pointed out the position of the corner of his mouth to the woman. The woman casually skimmed her mouth. then extended her thumb and wiped the blood from the corners of her mouth. The child was crying in the yard and shouted to his mother. The woman first smiled at the straw sandal boy, then splashed, and tears rolled out of her eyes. The next day, beside the straw sandal boy, there was an unwilling slipper thought. Ning Yao's question interrupted Chen Ping'an's quiet thoughts. What do you think? Chen Ping'an asked. You said that after Gu Ken and his mother left the town, they went to the Shujian lake with Shenzhenji Jian. Can they really live a good life? Ning Yao asked. Do you think their mother and son are not doing well in the mud bottle lane? Chen Ping'an thought. Gu Ken has no conscience and is young. She certainly doesn't feel hard. Would Gu Ken think the town is a good place? She doesn't like any of the women in the mud bottle lane and the apricot blossom lane. Moreover, I think Gu Ken's mother, as if she shouldn't be here in the town by nature. She always feels very unwilling. According to old man Yao, it's better it's uncertain. Men are uncertain. Their ambition is far away. Women are uncertain. They want red apricots out of the wall. I don't think that's right. Ning Yao suddenly straightened up and patted the table. What are you pulling? Do you want to learn boxing? Chen Ping'an was startled. Go on. Miss Ning. Ning Yao didn't have a good way. It's meaningless to talk to you about practice, because you are doomed to be unable to practice. So I can only tell you about martial arts in martial arts. What did Chen Ping'an just want to say? The girl has gone on to say, there are 9 realms of martial arts in the world. Of course, some people also say that in fact, there is a 10th realm above the 9 realms. Just like every major dynasty will keep a group of chess for imperial edicts. Speaking of this, the girl was in a much better mood. She asked with a smile, Chen Ping'an, do you know what chess is for imperial edicts? Of course. Chen Ping'an shook his head honestly. The girl's face was radiant. As an expert of Go, Zhuduan ranks the highest, which is equal to the first-class officials in the officialdom. However, some once-in-a-century geniuses will be known as Tenduan national players, and then these people will have all kinds of fancy and unique titles. It's very embarrassing that you are waiting for the imperial edict of the Dali dynasty. It is said that your Zhuduan is only equal to the 7 Duan strength of the Sui dynasty. The whole Dali is also a nickname embroidered tiger. It's really regarded as an enemy in the chess world of the Sui dynasty. By the way, do you know what Go is? Chen Ping'an nodded and said, You know the rules, but you can't play. Song Jixin and Zhugui have chessboards and chess pieces at home. The girl was full of loss. That's right. The girl walked around for a long time, but the boy still didn't know what the 9 realms was. The girl seemed to realize that she was a little unreliable. She coughed and said solemnly, My mother said that martial arts is the 9th realm, step by step. But even when you reach the 9th realm, the final scene is like being on a mountain and looking up at another mountain in the distance. You can only see the hillside. Chen Ping'an thought. I see. Because the boy has seen this picture with his own eyes. The girl didn't care whether the boy really understood it or not, and said, The 9 realms of martial arts are divided into body refining, chi refining, and god refining. There are 3 realms. Step by step. You can't be worse, and you can't be wrong. The more solid you walk, the better. Whether you walk fast or not is not so important. It's different from practice. The 3 realms of refining body. The first layer of mud embryo realm can be understood from the meaning. The mud bottle lane where your house is located is very rough. However, when you reach the peak, you are like a mud bodhisattva. Although you are a clay statue, you also have a bit of good atmosphere. Your chest sinks into the elixir field and remains as motionless as a mountain. In short, the essence of this layer lies in the word sun and when the word shen is used. The talent and understanding of martial arts practitioners can be seen at once by the master who leads the way. The second layer of wooden fetal state means that your body starts to grow from thick to thin. When you become mature, your skin texture is precise and orderly, such as the whole body seal writing. Just like yes. Just like this snake goldstone touch from the river, which is actually quite different from the ordinary pebble. The deep meaning of this layer of state is to open the mountain, broaden the meridians, and bring a narrow meridians like a sheep's intestines. It will become a Yangwang Avenue that can accommodate carriage traffic. People who practice martial arts will stand high and low in this realm. While saying these words, the girl in black held up the stone given by the boy. She gazed at the beautiful stone under the light and said softly, "The last state of body training is called mercury mirror. The blood is as thick as mercury, but the weight is lighter, and the chain and blood condense into one. Breaking the threshold requires a disaster, which is called Mad Buddha Sava crossing a river. Whether the cart can successfully cross the last threshold depends on the luck of the martial arts practitioner." Chen Ping'an was ignorant and looked at the oil lamp. The lamp flickered and his mind flickered. The girl yawned, lay on the table, and said lazily, "It's almost the same here. The three realms of body refining have blocked 80% of the martial arts. People who are good at martial arts thought it's hard to go further. You should know that the world is natural except my hometown. According to your family background and your understanding, I estimate that if you can reach the second level in your life, you should burn high incense." Chen Ping'an asked, "How do you practice this boxing manual?" The girl raised her eyebrows. "I'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm a little sleepy," Chen Ping'an said. "Then I'll take the basket to pick up the stones and come back to find Miss Ning tomorrow." The girl said, "If you don't worry, keep the feast score. I'll see if there were any mistakes. Will it be a trap or something?" Chen Ping'an said with a smile, "Okay. But Miss Ning, remember to be careful. I return this mountain-shaking manual to Guken in the future." The girl turned her head and frowned and said, "How many times do you have to say it?" The boy smiled and went to the corner to carry the basket. When he left the house, he didn't forget to remind him, "Miss Ning, don't forget to lock the gate." The girl lay on the table, didn't turn her head, waved her hands, and said weakly, I know. How can you talk more than my father?" The young man was as light as a swallow, and his figure disappeared into the alley. When Chen Ping'an was about to leave the mud bottle lane, the girl immediately stood up and stared at the shaking mountain manual with Kyuku's eyes. Then the whole person collapsed in an instant, lay down on the table again, frowned and said to herself, "How can I teach this thing? I was born a first-class sword immortal in the world. Where do I need to go to the foot of these mountains? I can't even remember the names of 365 orifices. How can the breath flow naturally? I've known it since my mother's birth. The girl scratched her head with both hands and was extremely sad and angry. Suddenly a voice sounded timidly outside the door. "Miss Ning." Ning Yao turned slowly and rigidly, and saw a dark face that was badly beaten. She stiffened her face and didn't speak. The boy swallowed his saliva and apologized. "I'm afraid you forgot to lock the door. So I'll remind you. Then, if Miss Ning will be hungry at night, I can go to Liu Xianyang's house to make some snacks, bring it to Miss Ning, and then go to the stream." The girl waved her big hand. The boy ran away immediately. Along the way, Chen Ping'an's mind was full of pictures of the first style of boxing manual. The fist moves, and the foot does not leave the ground. It is like walking through mud, and the potential is like heavy snow reaching the knee. It moves slowly. The boy didn't realize it. When he tried to practice boxing according to the manual, he couldn't help changing the speed of each breath. Young people are even whimsical. Wouldn't it be better to practice boxing in the stream? In front of Che Junction, there are two seals carved from the best snake goldstone. They are not big, and they have not been engraved. During the day, the gentle young scholar visited the school. After that, they had a private conversation. The Confucian gentleman from a distance asked him a question. "Say, do you want to inherit someone's last wish and continue to open peace for the world?" Che Junchen replied, "Let me think about it." This is obviously not a satisfactory answer, but the famous young gentleman, who is not aggressive, talked with Mr. Che, who has long been admired, about the local conditions and customs of the town and the changes outside the town, and then left. From beginning to end, the young gentleman didn't ask how to deal with the J card. However, Che Jingshen's heart is clear. The gentleman of Dangbao Pingshu Confucian Academy can bear it. The golden boys and girls of Taoism, the sutra protector of Buddhist temples, The famous overseas ascetic monk and the representative of strategists were unlikely to pay attention to the face of Xianxia Academy. In particular, they will not listen to Che Jingchen's wishes, and will certainly take back without hesitation the victory of their respective forces. But these are expected. Che Jingchen sat upright, holding a carving knife. For the first time, he was in a dilemma. He didn't know how to carve the seal, kill one's life to become benevolent, and sacrifice one's life for justice. It seems too big, inappropriate, and unlucky for the child. Is it too empty to be a piece and stand upright? But if it's 3 hasty seals chiseled at hand, it seems too insincere. Che Jingchen turned and looked out of the window at the night sky. In the night sky, dots and dots were hanging like night pearls on a dark curtain. Che Jingchen was stunned and lost consciousness. It took him a long time to recover. He picked up the seal in one hand and began to carve. Finally, 4 simple seal characters of tranquility and complacency were carved, especially the word tranquility at the beginning, which is the most full of divine meaning and all-inclusive. Che Jingchen gently put down the seal in his hand, with the bottom face up. Che Jingchen was relieved. The Confucian scholar with frosty white temples moved his mind and waved his sleeve. He saw that the wind and water rose quickly on the table, and the mountains and rivers rose and fell in turn. Finally, Che Jingchen looked intently and saw that teenagers and girls sat side by side in the dilapidated ancestral home in the shabby lane of the town, talking about the general situation of the 9 realms of martial arts. Above the 9 realms of martial arts, there is the 10th realm. Che Jingchen has already read dozens of books. He is no stranger to temples and Jiang. Naturally, he knows about martial arts. Che Jingchen's almost old-fashioned face showed some smiles. So the Confucian sage, who was in charge of the world, made a harmless joke. He carved 3 characters on the second private seal.